Good morning, everyone. My name is Dr. Gwen Lawson. I am part of the CHOP team for SMHC, and I'm excited to welcome you all to today's presentation, which is titled Programming for the Prevention of Bullying and Promotion of Positive Relationships in Schools. This discussion is part of the CHOP Tri-County School Mental Health Consortium, or SMHC, virtual learning series. We plan to host 3 additional virtual learning events throughout the school year, with the next event scheduled for January 21st, 2025. Many of you have probably already received information about SMHC from our newsletter, from attending our panel discussion last spring, or by participating in one of our other offerings. If you'd like to learn more about SMHC overall, please click on the link that will be posted in the Q&A, or you can email smhc@chop.edu. Before I introduce our topic and speakers today, just a couple of reminders. All attendees' lines will be muted and video will be disabled throughout the event. We will have time at the end of the presentation for audience questions. So if you'd like to submit a question, you can do so at any time using the Q&A feature located at the bar on the top of the platform. We're excited for today's presentation focused on bullying prevention. This topic really came from what we've heard from all of you. Over the past couple of years, we've heard from school and district staff that it would be helpful to have discussions about specific Tier 1 and Tier 2 mental health content areas, and also to learn from researchers about CHOP about the work that they're doing in schools. So we see today's event as one opportunity to facilitate these conversations. So with that, I would like to introduce our speakers, Drs. Tracy Waasdorp and Brooke Paskewich, Directors of Research and Implementation, respectively, of School-Based Bullying Prevention and Social Emotional Learning in the Center for Violence Prevention at CHOP. They are also assistant professors at the University of Pennsylvania Perelman School of Medicine and the Department of Psychiatry. Today, they will discuss aggression and bullying among school-age students and share information about some of their programs that address these concerns while promoting positive relationships in schools. I will hand it over to our speakers. Thank you so much.
Good morning, everybody. I just want to make sure I have it all set up. Okay. Good morning, everybody. Brooke and I are very excited to talk to you today about the programming that we do at CHOP and some other pointers for success. So today we're going to start with a brief introduction of aggression and bullying, just so we know that we're all on the same page. And we're going to discuss our approach to prevention of bullying. And also we're going to discuss partnering with researchers for change in schools. The prevalence of bullying. We know that it affects 20 to 30% of children and adolescents, but by high school, nearly all have had personal experience as either a bully, a victim, or a bystander of the behavior. You can see how there is a peak of bullying in middle school and it is lower in high school. Once we start seeing it in high school, it's usually those who have experienced it for many years and it's pretty chronic. There's been a lot of research on bullying over the past 20 years or more, and a study done by the CDC that looked at it longitudinally, which we could look at causal effects, we found that bullying was associated with very bad outcomes in adulthood, and that makes it an adverse child experience. So the CDC labels it as such, and it was found to be associated with psychosocial associations like self-blame, emotion dysregulation, suicidal ideation and attempts, self-harm, especially in girls, and externalizing symptoms, especially in boys. There were physical associations that have been found, like elevated blood pressure, inflammatory markers, obesity. And we always see somatic symptoms, sleep disorders, gastrointestinal concerns, heart palpitations, chronic pain. And we also know that it has a very negative impact on your academic trajectory. So this is just a little case. You are made aware that there is a group chat with at least 15 children in it. A child came to the counselor's office saying she is upset and being excluded from the group text, and she thinks the girls are talking about her. Is this bullying? I think that's the question all the time, right? What's the difference? What's the difference between aggression and bullying? And does it even matter? So aggression is the umbrella term, and aggression includes mean and hurtful behaviors towards another. Violence is aggression. Conflict, arguments, aggression. Bullying is aggression. But what exactly is bullying? So bullying has been defined as intentional, aggressive behavior, and it typically occurs repeatedly over time, or it's something that has the potential to be repeated, like one text. And it always happens in the context of a power differential. But what's conflict then? Conflict is usually one time. It's occasional. It often occurs in an accidental heat of the moment situation when you discuss with the person that is involved with conflict. There's remorse shown, like, I'm sorry I hurt them, or they're sad. Both individuals or all of the individuals involved are often upset about it. You'll see an equal social standing. That's that power differential. So both people either have the equivalent social standing, one isn't more popular than the other, or size, like physical size. When you have conflict, both individuals sitting there will have and want the ability to solve the problem. So pure conflict is also very normative. Children experience this. It's actually helpful. They'll learn how to navigate these kinds of behaviors that we all deal with as we grow up. But then what's the difference as comparison to bullying? So again, bullying, it's repeated. It's not one time. It is intentional and planned. It causes harm to the victim. A key feature is you won't see as much remorse. They'll blame the person they did it to as the cause of why it's going on. They will not be able to come up with a solution for the problem. And oftentimes they won't even see what they did as a problem. So that person has power. They have social power. They have the ability to manipulate that situation. And the victim has little to no power to provide any solution that can solve the problem. And you have to be careful, because when you're talking to people, they may very well act like they're giving solutions, but they have the power not to use them. And this difference between conflict and bullying is really why our responses need to vary based on whether it is or it isn't. So it's really important to remember that in a bullying situation, the victim has zero to no chance of being able to defend themselves due to that power differential, making adults extremely important in this scenario. So what puts someone at risk for victimization? Any notable difference, and this gets worse in middle school in particular. You could be too smart, not smart enough in certain environments, tall, small, overweight, having an LGBTQ status, and in middle childhood, it'll be more gender nonconforming behaviors. A physical or cognitive disability. Children with disability often have difficulty reading social cues, making friends. They have difficulty with communicating or body language, emotion dysregulation, hyperactivity, impulsivity, having higher rejection sensitivity or other social cognitive biases. These all put them at risk for being a victim. Having a recent immigration status has been associated with being a victim. And we've seen that amongst racial and ethnic categories, those that are biracial have the highest risk. We've also found that children who bully others and are also a victim are not only at risk for the most victimization, but also have the worst outcomes. We found that children with poor quality friendships or no friends at all are the most likely to be victimized. And there's recent research that the more you use social media, the more at risk you are for victimization. So what are the risk factors for engaging in bullying? So it's very interesting, because I think there's an idea that bullies all have poor social skills. This is not often the case. Some kids who have bully actually have very good social skills. It takes planning and emotional self-control. They're often perceived as popular, not maybe necessarily well-liked, but very socially influential, often seen as attractive and leaders. They are also more likely to have witnessed or experienced bullying or the type of aggression they choose to use by family members around them. They're also more likely to have personality traits or temperament that make them prone to aggression. They have lower empathy for others, or they're high in impulsivity. And they can have difficulty managing emotions and problem solving. And that's why a lot of the interventions for aggressive youth use that problem solving strategies to increase and also increasing empathy. So kids who are aggressive, it's often about an instrumental use of aggression. Why are you using the aggression? Is it about power? Is it about dominance and social influence? Are they trying to take control of the situation? Sometimes it's a fear that others are threatening their social status and they need to take that control. They might enjoy being in the center versus being on the outside. And in some environments, sometimes you need to maintain that reputation as being tough and strong. And so bullying helps you be and stay in that role. So there's different roles in a bullying scenario, and I feel like it's really important to know that. So it's not, when we first started doing bullying many years ago, there was a lot of focus on how to help a victim or how to help the child who bullied. We also don't like saying a bully because that labels the child that way when really it's a behavior that they are choosing. So the child who bullied, you can see there in the orange, and you have the victim. But what's most important about bullying is that it's the system that maintains this behavior and perpetuates it. So you can see you have those supporters and reinforcers where in person right here, you see that they are laughing, taking pictures, even just circling around the behavior is reinforcing for a bully, a child who bullies. But then you also have the defenders, the children who are strong enough to say, hey, that's not cool, don't do that. Or they can actually help the victim after the situation. They can pull the victim, get the adult, and help. We also have passive bystanders. So you can see these two different groups. The one boy behind the wall, he can see what's going on, but for fear or just not knowing what to do, they stand back. And the same with the kids there. They're kind of standing there. They're not intervening. They're not doing anything to help, but they're there. And lastly, you have witnesses. They're people that are more in the peripheral of the situation, but they're not really watching, but they're really not in a position to do anything because they may not notice all of the situation that's going on. And you can see in this picture, it depicts all children, but it's really important to know that adults in the school can be in any one of these roles. So now I'm going to pass it on to Brooke about what we can do.
Okay. So thank you, Tracy. And so based on that really strong foundation of what bullying is and is not, and how it relates to aggression and peer conflict, we're going to next talk about, as school leaders and school practitioners and teachers, what not to do in your school to help these situations, and then also what are best practices for what to do, and then the ways in which we implement those best practices here at CHOP. Okay, so let's start first with what not to do. So the first thing is just when it comes to bullying, as Tracy mentioned, it's very different from peer conflict. Peer conflict is normative. Kids experience it, adults experience it. It's part of their normal life. Bullying, however, is not a phase. It's not a normative experience. And so you don't want to just assume that that's the case, that it's normative, and that it's really nothing that you should intervene with. It's really important to know that it is something that requires intervention. And as Tracy mentioned, because of the power differential that exists between the bully and the victim, and the repetition, and the intentional mean behaviors, it's really not recommended to put the victim and the bully together in a room to talk it out. That victim really doesn't have the power to come up with a solution or to defend themselves. And the bully might not have the skills to even, or the recognition to even understand what they're doing is wrong. And it just would create a very unsafe and ineffective interaction between the bully and the victim. Similarly, conflict resolution or peer mediation, where you have a bully and a victim and maybe one of their peers along with them to try to mediate the situation, would be equally ineffective given the power differential between the children involved. So we wouldn't recommend conflict resolution or peer mediation. I'm just going to jump to the next one down. Putting students who bully together is also not the best idea. There's research to suggest that when you put kids together with social skills deficits or aggressive behaviors, and you group them together, there could be some deviancy training where they actually inappropriately influence each other and they can learn negative behaviors from each other. And so when we do group interventions, we always recommend that you pair kids who might be struggling with social skills with some pro-social leaders who have strong social skills, who can model those more appropriate behaviors, and so that they can learn from each other. We recommend that parents do not directly call each other, the parent of the victim or the parent of the bully, to talk directly to each other. That doesn't turn out well. And then, as school personnel, we really would recommend the not providing details of bullying related suicides or anything kind of like that, catastrophizes or really scare tactics in that way. And we really don't recommend brief assemblies or one-day awareness training events where they're good for raising knowledge and awareness, but they're not effective for changing behaviors. And so you really need something that's a little bit more longer term and a more systematic approach. Which gets us into exactly that. So to really be effective at preventing bullying, you need a systems approach. And you can see here through the two images, that approach should really involve the children and all of the children. So as Tracy mentioned, the perpetrators, the victims, the bystanders, the witnesses. So really taking a universal effect to engage all of the children, but also the really influential adults in those child's lives, and then also broader policies and school level policies, and then also governmental policies. So really taking a really wide systems approach that doesn't just involve those involved, but is broader. And also in terms of the systems and what we can do, particularly for children and school staff, taking multiple tiered approach is also really important. So having universal supports for all kids, all school staff, professional development trainings, social emotional learning programs in the classroom, policies and procedures related to bullying, the things for everyone, right? That's really important, those tier 1 supports. And then tier 2, more targeted group interventions for children who may be at risk for either demonstrating aggressive behaviors or bullying behaviors or being a victim of those behaviors. And then as well as the tier 3. So those are the kids who are at highest risk. They're involved in those behaviors and they need more intense individualized supports. Okay, so multiple tiers and a broader system is really effective. And that's really what we do here at CHOP. We really address multiple levels with our interventions. We've got small group, we've got classroom, school and community-wide initiatives that engage school staff and parents. We really believe in and provide social emotional skills training and anti-bullying and anti-aggression skills to students and staff through multiple levels of intervention. It's important to recognize as school staff that when you're addressing kids' peer relationships and social behaviors, you are also positively impacting their academics. And so really that realization that there's such a link between the kids' social world and their academic trajectories, and the importance of really addressing both. And building respectful, supportive relationships, not just student to student, but school staff to student, teacher, counselor to student, and also parents to students is really an effective best practice that we do here at CHOP. Okay, so I'm going to turn it over to Tracy.
Now we're going to discuss our programs, and we have 3 broad programs. These are the names of the programs. One's the Bullying Classroom Checkup, one's called Friend to Friend, and one is called Praise. And we're going to go through all of these programs, and we're going to start with the Bullying Classroom Checkup. So the first program we're going to discuss is actually the one that we use for teachers. Many years ago, a grant from the National Institute of Justice, they wanted to help schools navigate bullying, but there were many programs for kids, but we wanted to know, like, what could we do to help parents? There was a National Education Association survey that we did, and it found that teachers really don't know what to do. They are really uncomfortable with navigating bullying. We also have found that students rarely report the bullying to adults. And the reason for that could be rooted in they don't identify the same behaviors. What teachers are saying is aggressive or bullying behaviors, kids are saying aren't, and vice versa. teachers don't see it. Teachers report a need for effective intervention and de-escalation techniques so they can continue to focus on what they need. But they feel unprepared to handle the bullying, the aggression, and so they want to send it out. It's not my responsibility. I'd rather send this out to somebody else. What we found, though, with qualitative research we did was that children in classrooms with teachers that feel this way often feel the teachers don't care. And the teachers emphatically cared. They just felt that they weren't the best one to address this. So let's push this problem to the side and let the people that know what they're doing do it. But they've found in many years of research that if a teacher doesn't respond, if they delay responding to the behavior or an ineffective response, the situation in the classroom just gets worse. So teachers in general, we found when they see bullying in the classroom, they would say, stop that behavior and try and move on. But they never mentioned like what that behavior was. So it was treated the same way you would put your pencil on the ground. Don't kick his desk. But it's never saying like, hey, that behavior is harmful. And so instead of creating a full curriculum to teach teachers like for 12 weeks, we decided to make it something that was very balanced. And I'll show you what it includes. So we focused this whole bullying classroom checkup on an adapted version of the classroom management coaching model called the classroom checkup. So this program basically coaches teachers in classroom management. But what we wanted to do is include that feature with social emotional bullying and trauma-informed strategies. So it wasn't just, okay, now you get your classroom set up, how do you deal with someone whose pencils they keep throwing, but also how do you deal with those social interactions in the classroom so children don't feel like they're not cared and teachers don't feel like it's going to escalate. We have a strong focus on developing the relationships with the children so that trust is there and that there's mutual respect. But one of the things that we really found teachers needed to know was how to prevent, how to detect, and how to respond to bullying in the moment, right then and there, and not spending 25 minutes, a few seconds, because I have to get back to academics. And it uses two key practices. One is motivational interviewing, and one is guided practice. So what's motivational interviewing? Well, our coaches are from CHOP, and we go into the school, and we're not an evaluator of the teacher's behavior at all. We want to be a thought partner. We know some strategies that we feel could be helpful in the classroom, and we find out through observations. But we want that teacher to feel like this is something that I need. They need to feel that their needs are being addressed. So when they feel that way, their change is self-guided. It empowers them to feel that way. It empowers them to feel efficacious. When our coaches come up with strategies that are particular for that teacher, they are collaboratively built. And so this increases the fidelity that the teacher will even use them. So what's guided practice? Well, very few, in social emotional learning, there were no practices where teachers could go into a simulator and learn how to do this. But the problem is if you're learning how to navigate pretty aggressive behaviors, you don't want to practice for the first time in the classroom. So we attached this mixed reality simulation where you can see these pictures here. There's two different softwares. One's Teach Live, one's Immersion. It's this similar idea where you sit in a class, the teachers are standing in a classroom that's virtual. And when they interact with the students interact back. And the students in the classroom, they're pretty aggressive, and we can tailor it based on what the teacher needs to learn. And so they can practice all the strategies that the coaches are teaching them. This accelerates their skill building, their confidence, and it allows them to have buy-in for the strategies they're learning. So now we're going to go into very briefly some of the strategies that are in BCCU, although we're not going to get into them all. We're going to just briefly touch on the kinds of things that we feel and we found are extremely important for teachers and all school staff to learn. So the first thing is setting up for prevention. To model that social emotional communication, one of the quick ones there are I statements. Instead of saying, you just did that, you say like, I feel that you hurt him, or I feel that you would hurt me if you said that. So one of the other ones is reinforcing kindness and inclusion. So an example we give is to notice the positive bystander behaviors. Wow, it's so great that you included her, as opposed to only saying, now include everybody. So a very proactive approach and reinforcing approach. And how to set up the expectations on the front end of the year. If they don't know how they're supposed to act with regard to peer relations, then they won't know what to do. They'll only learn throughout the year what not to do. So that's why you want to set up the expectations of how are we going to treat each other socially and emotionally throughout the year. Next, we have detection. So we teach them how to detect bullying. As we said before, the children don't notice the same behaviors as the kids. So we really need to teach teachers, what kinds of things do you see? And we show them how to practice that detection. That also happens in the simulator, where we try and use some subtle behaviors. I think most often teachers will, it's not an ignoring, but I'll call it that for today, ignore more relational forms of behaviors. So when it's like, I don't want to work with her, the very socially manipulative, aggressive behavior versus a physical one that easily is seen. And there's a really clear start and end. And so a teacher has an easier time stemming that behavior and making sure the child's okay versus relational. So when you see a relational behavior, what does a teacher do? Do they see an aggressive, if a kid says, I don't want to work with her, do they say, okay, go find someone else? Or do they say, wow, that wouldn't make me feel very good if someone said that to me? We're inclusive here. And that's a standard we set up in the beginning of the year. We teach them about those different bystander behaviors, because again, it's really important that we're not just focusing on the victim and the bully. We're focusing on the upstanders, the kids that are around that can really help promote a positive classroom, not turning and looking, not reinforcing. And also what behaviors to look for when there's bullying and maybe they're hiding it. And lastly, it's the intervention piece. So we don't just say this is the behaviors you should do. We also tell them how important the tone is, how you say your SEL skills. Like, for example, if you say, I want to see everybody having nice behaviors, but then you don't model those behaviors, or you don't use a nice tone. It's like, nice behaviors, please. They're not going to feel that that's what they should be modeling and they should be doing. One of the things that we teach the teachers are these in-the-moment responses. These are just some of them as an example. So we learned these things through teachers' feedback to us of where they would say, well, that's all great and good what you're telling me, but what about this? What about this? What about if I do this? And so this is how we came up with like ways to navigate these really awful situations that they need to learn how to do it in the moment, but not spend 20 minutes going back and forth with some student who doesn't agree that what their behavior was bad. So for example, if the behavior was very in public, that's a big one. So you would say something like I explained before, like, hey, gosh, if someone said that to me, that would hurt. I wouldn't like that. Because often kids will say, well, I was just joking. You say, well, even if you were joking, I wouldn't feel very good hearing that. So even if you were just playing, it needs to stop. And one of the things that we also teach teachers to make sure you check in with that victim right away. Yes, you stop the behavior, but turn to the victim and say, hey, are you okay? That one quick moment and say, if you need to talk, come to me after class. Or if you want to talk, we can try and find an appointment with the counselor. There's also the things where you aren't sure of what you saw. Oftentimes you don't have eyes everywhere, so you can't see everything. And so one of the things we train is like, okay, so I don't know what was said. I missed it, but I can see two sad kids and I feel uncomfortable right now. So I'm going to remind you, and then you say your statements you set up in the beginning, or you can say, I would like to talk to you both after. And you don't do it together. We never suggest, okay, let's have them both come. You do it separately. And again, this does take time, but if you want to create the climate on the front end, you do that on the front end. It's not every week. You're not doing this all the time if you set it up well on the front end. And also one of the big ones is a power struggle. Some children who are reactive may constantly get in power struggles. And how do we do that? And one of the things we also train teachers are to remember sometimes children who are struggling in their peer relationships struggle in many relationships. And that could be with you yourself as the adult. So it's important to remember how that child might be, how you might treat that child too, and how you are struggling socially with that child and what behaviors you can do and model for your classroom. So some quick facts about the BCCU. It's for 3rd through 8th grade teachers. That's the research that we've done it on, the evidence base that we have. It includes the ongoing coaching. That's really the crux of the program. And it only took about 4 hours of the teacher's time. And we often do it at times where it really fits into their schedule. We're always really responsive to that. And we use that motivational interviewing. They practice in the simulator. We include school-wide professional development, so everyone has similar language across the school. And again, that focus is really student-teacher relationships and combined SEL with also strategies for classroom management. Next, we're going to go into our other programs that Brooke is going to explain.
Okay, so Tracy just explained our adult-facing program for teachers. I'm going to explain Friend to Friend and Praise, particularly Praise Voyagers, which you can see here. They are designed, Praise Voyagers and Friend to Friend are both designed for 3rd through 5th grade students. They have a long history and a lot of evidence to support that they work. And so Friend to Friend, as you're listening to this, I really hope that you'll take away, as we're saying, like what this program does and what we teach the kids, we're really hoping that you can kind of grasp onto those concepts and strategies as you're engaging with your students and like, oh, maybe I can help my child with this type or my student with this type of strategy. So we're hoping to really have an applied piece of this that you guys can walk away thinking that you can use some of what you've learned today with your students. And so Friend to Friend in particular, this was developed many, many years ago at a time when many of the aggression and bullying prevention programs focused on physical aggression and thereby were very used, very heavily and with a lot of evidence to support they work for boys. But there was a recognition that girls are also aggressive, but they do it in different ways. They use those more relational or social behaviors that Tracy had described. And so Friend to Friend was really addressed to be more comprehensive and to not only include the physical behaviors, but also to really focus on those relational behaviors too, and to engage girls in the programming. So just this recognition, it's boys and girls, and that we should not just do physical, we should also do relational because it's important, and relational can have a negative impact on students and classroom climate. So within Friend to Friend, these are the primary strategies and concepts that we teach the kids that we hope you guys will walk away with. Just the importance of recognizing, like I said, there are multiple types of what we call friendship problems or conflicts or aggression bullying, and to really consider them all equally important and equally impactful to intervene with. The importance of helping kids to identify their feelings, to regulate their emotions, especially when they're feeling reactive and something happens and they want to react quickly and potentially in an aggressive or negative way. We really want students to kind of learn how to calm themselves down and try to put a little bit of a pause on that reactive aggression. Try to understand why conflict or aggression happens and understand why other people may be doing things, interpreting others' intentions so that you don't assume it was done negatively to be mean. And then also just generating and thinking through different kinds of choices you can use in aggressive situations. And so this is just a snapshot. In our programs, we use cartoon images that were developed in partnership with the schools and communities that we work in. And so we just wanted to give you guys a visual of what the kids see. They have a cartoon workbook, and you can see there, we've got different depictions of all different types of friendship problems. You can see here, this one is social. We teach kids for the feelings recognition piece, the importance of paying attention to your face and body and information within yourself to figure out how you're feeling or that you're having an emotion. And then, as I mentioned previously, like, are there times where you can kind of assess the situation, assess others' intent, and maybe give other kids the benefit of the doubt, what we call assuming an accident. This is the emotion regulation piece. We give kids really applied strategies for calming themselves down, deep breaths and counting and imagery and things that you're probably familiar with. And then Friend to Friend really has an important leadership component. And we really believe that by working with these higher risk kids who are more likely to demonstrate aggressive behaviors, that if we give them these social problem solving strategies, we can really promote their leadership and give them strategies to be pro-social leaders in their classroom and in their school. And then the other thing we know is that kids who struggle with social skills deficits or aggressive behaviors have trouble in their peer groups, entering peer groups. And so we have a couple strategies that we teach them to know what groups are good to enter in and then how best to do it in a positive way. Okay, and this is just a quick fact. Little snapshot. So friend to friend, it's a small group intervention. So it's a tier 2 intervention for kids who are more at risk for those aggressive behaviors. It is manualized. It is pick up and go. Very easy for school counselors to run this small group component. It's 14 sessions with a really comprehensive approach that you kind of heard me just describe. We provide training up front on the curriculum and implementation strategies, and then we provide ongoing coaching to support those school counselors or other champions to be running the program so that they can do it with fidelity, but also the flexibility to really make it work within their school culture and their daily routine. And then we have recommendations. We've been doing this a really long time. We've got a lot of data to suggest that friend to friend works. And so we can really make recommendations to schools about, how to select kids for groups and how to demonstrate that the group is actually having a positive impact. Okay. That is friend to friend is some of the strategies and best practices for helping students. Praise, and I'll talk about Praise Voyagers, is a universal adaptation of friend to friend. So you'll see here, we had a lot of success with friend to friend for many years in our school districts. And there was teachers and counselors who said, this is really great, but we want all kids in the class to get it, not just those higher risk kids, but everybody can benefit from these social skills, this social skills training. And so Praise is a classroom universal tier 1 adaptation of friend to friend. And one of the things that makes it unique from friend to friend is just the recognition that aggression and bullying are distinct in all the ways that Tracy mentioned. And so there is curriculum and strategies that really address the whole system and the multiple roles that can be involved in bullying situations, including that very important bystander role. And we've got 2 versions. I'm going to talk about Voyagers. That's for 3rd through 5th grade. And then we have a newer program for 1st and 2nd called Explorers. So the Praise Voyagers takes all those social skills, problem-solving strategies that I just described for friend to friend and broadens it to address the broader context and the bullying behaviors, the multiple roles, including the bystander. There's a bigger emphasis on cyberbullying behaviors, as that has really increased in prevalence, as I'm sure you all realize in the recent years. We teach kids empathy and perspective-taking skills and also strategies to solve conflicts with their peers. So here's a little bit about what that looks like. You can see in the top right, we really train students the way that Tracy just explained it to you guys, that aggression and bullying are different and what is bullying. And we have some curriculum related to really understanding what bullying is, and then going through the different types of friendship problems, recognizing they can be multi-form, relational, social, verbal, physical, and cyber. You can see the cyber one here. And again, recognizing the roles that the kids can play in these situations. Here's a little snapshot of the problem-solving strategies that we teach kids, that you always have choices in situations, and when possible, can you assume an accident? Can you do something to make the conflict or problem feel smaller, like letting it slide, walking away, going to play with someone else, seeking adult support? Or are there times where you really do need to kind of stand up for yourself and say, I don't like that, please stop, and have those positive assertiveness strategies, which we call Say It Strong. As I mentioned, we teach perspective taking and empathy. Don't need to get into that, but that's just some images on how we do that. Okay, and then more quick facts. So just this is Praise Voyager in a nutshell. As I mentioned, oops, lost the there it is. Okay. Tier 1, it's classroom. It is run by teachers or other school champion. It could be a counselor. It could be a climate coordinator. Any kind of school designated social emotional learning or bullying prevention champion can do it. We've done it with counselors. We've done it most recently with teachers. It's really designed to be feasible and to fit within that 25-minute block that a lot of schools have kind of reserved for social emotional learning, a community meeting or a morning meeting. We've really developed it to fit within that structure so that it's feasible to implement. Again, it's very manualized. It's pick up and go, easy to facilitate with workbooks like you just saw for the kids. We provide upfront training and coaching along the way. It's 12 sessions. And again, this one's for 3rd through 5th graders. And we've gone through 2 randomized controlled trials that really demonstrate that praise works. And we're excited to be starting a new grant from the National Institutes of Justice, as well as the CDC, to really understand a little bit more about this, the coaching approach to implementing praise, and also how to pair together the universal classroom component with some tier 2 supports for kids at higher risk, using some of those simulator experiences that Tracy just described for teachers. We're going to be doing that with kids. And so we're really excited to take these next steps with Praise Voyagers.
So very, very briefly, I'm going to just touch on our new program, which is for 1st and 2nd graders. Again, this was due to schools saying, please put this in our little kids. Our little guys need this, and they need foundational skills in a way that your program has been addressing that others we found did not. And so they wanted it for younger graders, and we did a lot of qualitative studies to find out exactly what teachers felt was necessary and how they want to implement it. So these are the concepts that our Explorers program addresses. And very briefly, this is some of the pictures that we have about making friends. And one of the things that we found was they really wanted the program to not just give them SEL skills, but give them SEL skills within the context of their friendships and making and keeping friends, and what is a good friend, how not to be mean, and to notice your kind of social behaviors. So that, and also give strategies for using positive self-talk, for example, and how what you're thinking is connected to your behaviors. So the quick facts of this program, 1st and 2nd graders, about 16, 17 sessions. It's for the whole classroom. We really wanted to, as Brooke suggests, just put it in that time where a community meeting time, really short and quick, but with strategies that the teacher can use throughout the week to extend those concepts. Yeah, and currently it's funded by an internal CHOP grant, and we will be going for a larger trial very soon. So what's unique about all of our programs? We try and make our programs really relatable using a community-based participatory approach. We don't design a program and then say, okay, we're done. Now let's give it to schools. We have designed our programs with the schools, and then we're regularly adapting them to change with the needs of schools. We integrate our social skills with peer interactions, as I suggested before. The friendships and the social relationships are the core of understanding their SEL skills. We have a strong focus on reactive aggression, so that way things don't escalate so quickly. And we are systems focused, as we've said numerous times. We not only just do broader PDs, we include parents in a lot of our work, and we do it across the week and the school settings. We use coaching as an accountability partner to support that implementation of the program, because without fidelity of implementation, you don't even know if the program is working or how it's going to work. So we also really focus on the feasibility of implementation. How are our materials going to be easy for teachers? We had teachers help us adapt our programming so that way it would be able to be implemented within school settings easily and flexibly.
Okay. And this is our last slide. I think that this is, and we've still got 15 minutes, so I think we're doing good on time. This is where it's really exciting to talk with all of you who are school-based personnel and school partners. And I think, one of the things that we've learned about doing school-based research and intervention development implementation over the years, and something that we take really seriously, and we hope that all of you who have research partnerships have partners with the same approach, is that partnership should be at the core. And so when we are doing anything, as Tracy mentioned, we develop in partnership with the district from the time of grant conception. And it's really based on this needs assessment, like what do you need? And then how best can we partner together to make sure that we're meeting that need? How can we partner with districts at the time of the conception of that grant? So by the time we get the grants, we know that we have a product that these schools are willing to do, that they're interested in, and that's going to make, a meaningful impact. And so really the partnership at the district level, from the time you're thinking about something, all the way down to the rollout rollout process. And so when we are developing partnerships with particular schools, we don't want to just come in and then go right into a classroom and say, hey, here's what you're doing. It's really important. And what we do is really to partner not just with the principal, but also assistant principals and deans and school counselors and, you know, grade level champions of teachers to really get them involved in the decision-making process and really increase buy-in, which really helps with implementation and fidelity. So just remembering that partnerships are at the core. Something else that we really believe in is giving back. So when you're participating in a research study, there are asks. You know, when we would come into a school, we are making some asks, but we are also giving back. And so we really believe in, we are giving you our curriculum, our programming, our strategies. We provide the staffing to come into the school to support implementation. We provide school level trainings, teacher trainings, broader PDs at the district level. We engage parents in workshops and trainings. And so I think there's a lot of opportunity for researchers to provide meaningful services to schools when you partner for research studies. And then the other thing is just the importance of the evidence. And I think what Tracy and I wanted to kind of highlight here is that there really is a mutual benefit to partnering together in research and to gather the evidence. We are largely grant funded, and when you're writing grants, you need a lot of data, you need multi-informant data, you need large sample sizes. And so those are the asks that I mentioned that we often have for schools to help, you know, complete surveys, complete logs for us. But on the flip side, by gathering that, we're then able to say and gather the evidence to prove that this program works, so that when you, as school entities, are deciding what programs to choose that are best for your school, you know that you're choosing an evidence-based program. So it's kind of that mutual benefit to just the importance of the data for us to know what works, and then for you guys as schools to know that you're picking an evidence-based program. And like I said, we do this in a lot of different ways, whether it's observations or multi-informant, surveys or reports. And then one of the things that Tracy mentioned too is the importance of fidelity monitoring and the recognition that it's important to know what is done and when and how, so that we know that the program is being run as intended. And I think there can be a tendency, due to lack of time and competing priorities, to kind of pick and choose and pluck and do and that. And, when that happens, we don't know then, how is the effectiveness of that program going to be impacted if it's not run as intended? And so we really believe in the importance of understanding what is done and when and why, so that we know how the program works. When it's run as it's designed and when it's not. And then we can make recommendations to schools based on that.
That is it. So we do have a website that has a lot more information about our programs. It's a work in progress. Those websites, I feel like it takes forever to update those, but we have also some handouts, some sheets we've made, all available on the Center for Violence Prevention website under bullying prevention. And
parent
lastly,
workshops.
Oh yeah, parent
Sorry,
workshops that are available.
Resources and parent resources
there
on there.
There are virtual workshops that are available. Yeah.
And workshops. Yeah, lots of great tools on our site.
And we just want to also recognize that everything we do is a very, very big team. We don't even have listed here all the undergraduate students that help us collect massive amounts of data, so we can show you that evidence. And you can see here we have a wide team, really strong individuals who all have backgrounds in school-based research, and we are hoping we are making a big difference in this world. So we're going to, do I close this out? There we go.
Thanks so much, Tracy and Brooke, for that wonderful presentation, and also for all of your continued work to support students and school staff. We really appreciate your time. So as folks have questions, feel free to add them into the Q&A section. We have a few that we'll start with. There's a question from Morgan who said, do you have any similar programs for older students at the high school level?
We don't. We will. We will work on, like we said, we go where the need is. And if the need is there, that is what we do. I know I have colleagues that have been working very hard to get wellness program out in the Baltimore schools and in Hopkins, and one of our colleagues who works on that BCCU program. So there's always collaborations within research. And so if that's something that is necessary, we can reach out and start having implementation of their programming up here that they're gathering evidence for.
And then a question from Jamie, who said, can you speak a little bit about the teachers' experiences with and feedback about the virtual simulator and how this has helped them learn these techniques and apply them in the classroom?
Yeah, sometimes when we give the presentation for BCCU, we include a quick video of it because it really helps to explain what it is. The teachers really enjoy it. I think there's always that balance between like, do I really have to take time out to do anything? And then once they're there, they're like, wow, that was really cool. We have fine-tuned the interactions of those kids. So teachers sit there and like, wow, that was really close to what I see. And I think that one of the things that teachers have said is that they start to feel like they know these kids because they keep the children have certain background stories and lines that the teachers learn. And when teachers go in that simulator, they don't know that's about to happen. They kind of go in thinking, I'm going to teach a lesson like you do every day. And then the behaviors start like it happens every day. And so we really try and simulate that. And so one of the things that's really cool about the simulator is the coach is there too. And so you also have peer teachers there. So when you are doing it, the coach can stop and say, hey, why don't we try it this way? Or what do you think about what you just did? How did it feel? And then even your teaching partner, if you choose to do it that way in the simulator, because you can choose not to, you can give each other feedback and support even outside of the simulator with using these strategies. So we have found that they enjoy it. And I think, again, the program does not take a ton of outside teacher time to be effective.
Thank you so much. I'm just seeing some questions about recordings and sharing slides. So we will touch base with Brooke and Tracy about that and then follow up there. Morgan is emphasizing the need for high school. And then Amy is asking, how do we access these programs?
Brooke, do you want?
Yeah, that's a question that we love, but is hard to answer. So I would say, please reach out to us. We'll have our information available, but we are largely grant funded. And so if you're interested in developing a, research partnership through a grant partnership with us, we would love to explore that. We're also looking into opportunities for friend to friend specifically. That's our longest and tried and true program, the small group intervention that is more ready for dissemination than maybe the others. And so that's something that we're looking into over the next year is how can we really package and broadly disseminate that. So we would be happy to talk with you about that. But we're always seeking, we're here in Philadelphia, but we're always seeking to expand our partnerships to the Tri-County areas outside of Philadelphia. And so if that's something that your school would be interested in partnering with us on, please let us know.
Yeah, and we have a long relationship with the city of Philadelphia, and so we just recently had a contract with them because they really wanted to take friend to friend beyond our projects, and so that is happening right now. And yeah, so that program, Friend to Friend, is the one that's most easily accessible. We are willing to work with people with others, but again, there's that give back where it's like, okay, so if you're doing it, we need X, Y, and Z as well. So that way we can continue to make sure that evidence base for the program is there for you to then tell your districts, this is the program we want, it's got evidence.
Yeah.
Great, and Jamie just put the link in the chat.
Oh, thank you, Jamie.
To learn more.
I'm not sure I put the exact one in the chat, but I hope I did a good enough job, and please feel free to correct it. And I think another question is just whether you all, if you're comfortable putting your emails as contacts in the chat so that people can reach out to you with questions, and feel free to correct mine because I didn't see it on the slide version I had.
Can we put stuff in the chat?
Yes, I think if you just put start discussion,
I'll put ours, Brooke.
Great.
Okay.
And then some more questions about partnerships, and I'll also just give a plug for the SMHC project in general. So in the newsletter that we distributed a few weeks ago, hopefully you all got that. There's also a section and a link for schools and districts to indicate their interest in being in partnerships with researchers at CHOP, doing work that Tracy and Brooke and others are doing across the enterprise. So feel free to go ahead and access that and fill out that survey. And then we'll also send that link out again in a follow-up to today's discussion. So definitely fill that out if there's interest in partnerships. related to bullying and aggression, but other areas that CHOP researchers are focusing on. And then Tracy is adding her email, and then we'll also add Brooke's.
Yeah.
Great. I'm not seeing any other questions. I have one, and then I think,
Cindy's
Anissa,
question, is that the one?
looks like your hand's raised. Unfortunately, I don't think you can come off chat or mute. So if you can, if that was intentional, if you want to ask your question in the
I
Q&A.
also see one that says if there's a school that's interested and not the whole district. I mean, when we do research projects, we often will go in like one school. It's not, we're accumulating lots of schools, and the more schools we have representative, the more we'll know the program works in different contexts. So, yeah.
Right. All right. Any other questions?
Well, thank you for allowing us to talk to all of you. We're really excited about opportunities to expand.
Right. And before folks sign off, thank you again to Brooke and Tracy and the rest of our team for being able to pull this together and share their incredible work. We have a brief survey in the chat, so if you take a few minutes before you leave to just give us some feedback as we continue to plan these virtual learning series and make sure that the work that we are sharing is important to all of you. And we hope to see you all in January for our next one.